Hello and welcome to this episode of Dubai Startup Ecosystem Chats. This is powered by Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy. I'm super excited to have today with me Rhea and Nikita, who are the co-founders at The Bureau.
Hi, I'm Nikita Bhojani. I am one of the co-founders of The Bureau. I'm Indian and a Dubai kid born and raised.
Hi, my name is Rhea Patel, also co-founder of The Bureau. I'm an American, but I was raised in Dubai.
It's super exciting to be here in this space, the newest edition of The Bureau. Tell us a little bit about not just the Grand Opera location, but what The Bureau is.
Yeah, so The Bureau is essentially a female-focused co-working space and community open to everyone. So in terms of physical space, we have every workspace solution you could want, from offices to dedicated desks to co-working, meeting rooms, event space, the whole kind of 9 yards. But I would say we're so much more than a co-working space. And what we mean by female focus is that the space has been designed with women in mind and not as an afterthought. So we have many kind of services for women, mothers that are returning to the workplace after pregnancy, feeding mothers, female entrepreneurs. And what we really love is the power of the community here at The Bureau.
I love that. So obviously the color palette is very feminine friendly. There's a lot of female power that I feel in here. But you also have nursing rooms. What are other elements that you've incorporated into the space to make it female focused?
So like Nikki said, community is a huge part of what we do. And I think what people don't realize is that women need different things at different stages of life. So that's exactly what we try to cater. So the needs of a working mom are different from a woman starting her first job, a woman returning from maternity leave, and so on. So we really support women in terms of that connection and that network and the resources. So we have so many programs that facilitate that. So we have a Bureau Connect program, we have needs and leads sessions, we have members breakfasts, we have so many partnerships with women groups. So it's more than just the physical space, it is really that sense of camaraderie and community that we provide as well.
I love that. And I was telling you before we started shooting that I had come to your space, your first location in 2021. And one of the things that I found was, well, what surprised me actually was I thought that it was a female-only space. Yeah. And I want you guys to clarify that it's actually not a female-only space, it's a female-focused space. And what's the difference, for all of those out there that might have had the same assumption that I did? Yeah. What is the difference?
It honestly is a common assumption, but we are a mixed space because we do feel like that's just the way the world is that we live in. And one of our key pillars at The Bureau is inclusion. So inclusion in terms of industry, in terms of gender, in terms of age and stage of life as well. Like Nikki said, we call ourselves female focused largely due to our programming as well. So,
and I think also like adding to that, it's, and I think the beauty of diversity is really important. And I mean, all of our teams are mixed, but what we realized, when we were building The Bureau is it was on the back of COVID as well. And women globally were disproportionately affected by COVID because a lot of women and mothers had to leave the workplace for like childcare responsibilities, for homeschooling, and so on and so forth. And so the more people we spoke to, the more I said, now, we've had a shift in our career, our shift in our mindset, and we want to, get back into the workplace or start our own venture or, go into freelancing. But a lot of women didn't have necessarily that support to take that first step. And so that's what we wanted in terms of creating a physical space, creating a space that was not corporate, was not too industrial, that was very welcoming. We say The Bureau has the convenience of the office and the comforts of your home. And so we just wanted people to just show up as they are. And that element of community is really important. I know it's used as a buzzword a lot, but we believed in facilitated connection. So literally the program Rhea was talking about, Bureau Connect, it's almost like a matchmaking program. So we say that, okay, it could be women, it could be men, whoever the members are, saying that these two people would connect really well in terms of their interests, personal interests. It could be that they're in the same industry. They could support each other. It could be a client, potential client for a business. So we really believe in forging those connections for our members, like constantly adding value to them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think there is something about women in general that really crave that connection. So I love that there's a physical space for it in this digital economy world that we live in, that you guys were really building a brick and mortar business that has these like human interfaces.
Yeah, and I think just going off that, post-COVID especially, loneliness was a very big problem. And I think we all crave that human connection. And so we say we provide you with your physical space, but also your coworkers and potential clients as well. So, people come here for a one-stop shop, not just a physical space.
I love that. Tell me a little bit about the types of people you have here. So women and men, you were telling me earlier about your mom being a regular here, and also a man that had launched their business here, and it sounded like he was getting a lot of focus group sort of intel, not just from your mom, but from others that are here. Can you give a few examples of the type of people that you're hosting in this space?
Yeah, so just in general, we're industry agnostic, and I think that makes the space more exciting and interesting. We are also age agnostic, and gender agnostic as well. So I think that really creates a very cool, diverse space. We have a mix of people in corporate, many freelancers, many SMEs that take our private offices, and also just small business owners and entrepreneurs.
So a lot of like an entrepreneurial buzz.
Yeah. It really is an interesting demographic, which we've noticed that have been coming to the Bureau in the last few years, is that people that have just recently moved to the UAE like 10 days ago, So we almost act as like a landing pad for a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses, because, it can be overwhelming when you're moving to a new place to figure everything out by yourself. And because our job is to figure a lot of that stuff out for you, people like that, and they just meet friends, they meet people. A lot of people's entire social networks has been created through the Bureau, which is one of the most beautiful things for us to see as well.
Yeah, being a community pillar, that being one of your tenets, it works perfectly in that manner. What would you say to someone who's abroad that's considering maybe launching their startup or moving their company to Dubai? What is it about Dubai that differentiates itself? I know you guys also have international educations in the US and in the UK. I'm super curious how you would define Dubai, some of the things that make it unique to other places.
I think the answer to that has evolved over time, but it's so interesting. We live in a time where we see people with no connection to Dubai or the Middle East moving from all different parts of the world. And I think that something that really put Dubai on the map, especially post-COVID, was safety. Dubai handled COVID extremely well. So people had a lot of trust in kind of the leadership in the government as well. I think there's just so much opportunity here, especially if you want to start something of your own. Just the sheer amount of people moving here creates that volume and that sizable audience. So if you do start a business here, you have that ability to scale because you have that audience ready and willing. So for me, I just think there's so much opportunity, not just in Dubai, but the whole region as well.
I think anyone thinking about it, I would say do it. I couldn't encourage it more highly to come and start your business here in Dubai. And it's from personal experience. With the amount of interesting people we've encountered that have just moved to Dubai to relocate their entire businesses. And I think the reason is that Dubai is a yes place. It's a place that everyone is just open to collaborating, open to trying new things, open to supporting each other. There's a very positive growth hustle mindset, and it's the excitement of a growing place, and how cool to be part of the DNA of literally one of the coolest cities, to be part of that growth. Nowhere else can you get this kind of exposure and experience. And I think we're testaments to that.
And we always joke, like, we literally grew up with the city. Every time we'd return back from university or work, we'd just see like a new building or a new area or a new concept. And I just think that's so exciting and rare to see in the world.
It is exciting. You know, you go away for 2 years and you're like, there is an entire neighborhood that did not exist before.
Yeah.
And there's very few cities around the world that have that hustle culture and that balance as well. Yeah, very exciting. I want to step back for a moment and address the elephant in the room. And
Which one?
Dun, dun, dun. No. Well, I wanted to talk about you two being sisters.
That's always the number one question.
That's the number one. I left it for the middle for extra fun. I want to know how has your relationship changed from, well, first of all, I want to know, how were you as sisters? How would you describe each other as sisters when you were young? Like, what are a couple of characteristics that each of you guys had? And what are some of the lessons you've learned over the last 3.5 years as you've been working together?
Such a great question, honestly. I feel this applies to not just sisters, but anyone looking to work with a co-founder, family member, or whatever it may be. I'm your typical Pisces. I'm very creative.
Emotional.
Definitely a people person. And I think that the reason our partnership works is because we fundamentally have very different skill sets. So we tackle different parts of the business, but when it comes down to it, our values really align and our leadership styles align as well. So I would say our relationship is extremely complementary. We mentioned this earlier, but prior to working together, we made 2 lists of everything we wanted to work on individually, everything we wanted to work on together, and everything we thought we were good at. And there was very little overlap between that, and I think that was the green light to go ahead and work together. So it's been a great journey so far.
I think also, like, growing up, like, obviously we have a 3-year age gap. And so right now there's, you know, when you're adults, it doesn't make a difference. But when you're kids, it seems like you're almost like a generation apart. So I feel like I was like kind of always like the older sibling, and you were like she was very like affectionate, like younger sibling as well. And what's interesting is when we decided to work together, it was actually quite difficult to shrug off those like older sibling, younger sibling like dynamics. And it was something we had to like actively work on, because I think I was just like too intense and controlling and, you know, trying to check everything Rhea was doing. And Rhea was like oddly seeking my approval on certain things when she didn't need to, but it was just like something that maybe was ingrained from like childhood. But the second that I think we both realized that we were equals in this and we both bring like equally valuable things like to the table, and it was just like a muscle that we had to kind of train over time. That's when I think we started like clashing less, probably, right?
Definitely. And I think just starting a business in general, there's just teething issues in the beginning, whether you've worked with that person before or not. So I think it was a combination of unlearning and relearning those like familial roles, and also just learning how to run a business, how to lead a business, how to, you know, build a team. So I think both of those things were happening in parallel. And there was an additional layer of me working in Dubai for the first time after having worked in corporate America for a really long time. So yeah, there's multiple things at play, but after working with a sibling, it's really hard to go back and work with anyone else. There is a level of informality in the relationship that is so unique and amazing.
But I think like we also had to set boundaries like early on, because we lived like quite close to each other as well. Yeah. So we used to initially like drive to work together, and we realized that that was just a disaster, because we would just argue first thing in the morning, because like we were both cranky and like, you know, wanted to like listen to different things or whatever it is.
I love like my audiobooks. Nikki listens to like
prayers in the morning. So we decided like probably after like 2 weeks in, like we cannot like drive to work together. Like this is like too much, you know?
And we have like different WhatsApp chats, like a work one and then like our personal chat. So there'll be multiple conversations happening at one time. We'll be like, like, why did you do this at work? And then I'll be like, hey, like, what are you wearing to dinner tonight? So it's like such an interesting dynamic working with family.
I love it.
Yeah.
Having gotten to where you are now, where it seems like, you guys have gone through those teething issues, what's the best piece of advice you've received that maybe some other startup founders would like to hear? Maybe they're considering going into business with a best friend or a family member.
Yeah. I think that, so for us, our mom was like very kind of initially like worried about us working together because she said, touch wood, like you have a very strong like sibling relationship. So why would you want to like even attempt to jeopardize that, at what cost? But then, the more we spoke to her, and it was a process as well. She just said, just make sure that no matter what happens, like your sister's first. That comes before anything, and then it's the bureau, So anytime which is not so often, but anytime we like clash or disagree or get fed up of each other, we think about that and just take time to just give each other space, I think, as well,
Yeah.
But just knowing that what the priorities are in terms of if you want to maintain that relationship.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And with regards to setting up in Dubai, was there a leg up or an advantage, do you think, of you guys setting up the bureau here versus anywhere else?
I think it's much easier to set up companies in the UAE than anywhere else. I think they really welcome that. They want people to set up companies here as well. There's like freelancer visas. There's just so much access over here and so many options that you don't have in other places.
Yeah, the actual business setup was like very straightforward, like it was very straightforward, very seamless. And we see that so a lot of our members have like small businesses, and even for them, like, they take licenses like all over like Dubai and different free zones onshore in the UAE. And like largely we've heard like very positive, like, feedback in terms of like the ease of setting up companies. And then obviously, like for us, we want to make it as easy as possible for these businesses to just not just survive, but thrive as well. So we provide like additional support. So we can provide a jari, whether people need like PRO services, like we can offer that as well. PO box number, parking, like, all the kind of ancillary services for businesses to really like thrive, and I think that it, like Rhea said earlier, like it can be like lonely to set up a business, but when the whole system is set up in a way that like people are encouraged to come here, it just makes life so much easier, like for businesses.
I think something that was really important to us was to actually test the business model and refine it. So the idea we initially had has actually evolved so much over time, both before launch in our focus groups and also 2 years later with our second location. So I think we wanted to be able to grow at our own pace. We definitely are open to external funding in the future, but as of this point, it's working for us to kind of be bootstrapped.
And also it's, for us, like our plan was never just to have one bureau. It was always, to really refine the business model and then, bring this value to other places, like not just the UAE, to the Gulf in general, potentially India as well. And so definitely as we grow in the future, we would definitely like be open to like strategic funding in order to open doors in like new places as well.
And as you think back, what are some of the naive challenges that you guys ran into that you're like, wow, these were tough things that we didn't consider?
So, I think naivety is good. I think naivety is good in business.
A little bit of delusion is good.
Yeah, it's good because if you knew how difficult it was going to be, you would never do it to begin with.
That's what people say about pregnancy.
Yes, literally. It's like having a baby, Like I can say that now because I have had a baby. But, you just like, even with the second location, you forget like the challenges of the first location. You just remember like the excitement and like, the beauty of like starting something new, that you forget the struggles. And so that's why you do it again. Yeah. Again and again and again. But I think naivety is helpful.
And I think on the actual physical space fit out, I think I had a very like optimistic, glamorous view on how it would be to build a space. When I thought about fitting out a space, I was thinking about like, oh, like what lamps will we choose? Like what color should we paint the
Pinterest
walls?
boards and
Yeah, it was all Pinterest boards and sunshine. And then I realized it was like a lot of MEP and like plumbing and wires and cabling and building mezzanines and approvals. And, you know, I always thought I wanted to build my own house, but after building the bureau, I'm like, no, like, you know, I'm like, I've totally got it out of my system. But I do love anything like interiors. So it was definitely fun and a passion to build this from the ground up, essentially. But for me, that was the biggest dose of reality. So
I think also like in like the actual conceptualization, like idea phase, I think what was naive of us is to like just assume what we like and what's important to us is like important to other people, you know? So like an example is that neither of us were mothers like at that point. And when we were doing our focus groups, we were like, oh, let's just ask people like whether they want, you know, like kids in the space, like should we have like a creche on site or whatever it is. And actually the moms at the time said, actually like this is a space we want to go where we get like 5-6 hours of like total like alone time. So they didn't want like an actual physical like crash on site. And I guess that's also because like, you know, we're in the UAE and you know, services are easy for childcare and so on and so forth. So I guess the point being that like we thought like we made certain assumptions that weren't necessarily true. And when we asked like those stakeholders, they kind of validated like the opposite, you know? And then the second thing is also just like realizing that the initial idea that you have initially or that we had for the bureau, not to get like stuck to it in like a emotional, like very fixed way, because we realized like the most underrated qualities to just kind of flow and just go and pivot and go with what's working and let go of what's not working. So an example is that, you know, in our focus groups, like everyone said that we would love to have like a workout studio like in at the bureau. So we do like a Pilates or yoga class before work or in our lunch break. And, you know, we tried like 2 different operators and it just like didn't work, you know, it didn't work. And so it was just like lying empty for like 1.5 years. And we realized that, okay, we just need to like let it go. And what people also say that they want versus what they're willing to like pay for or spend time on can also be different.
Yeah,
you know?
I think in focus groups, people are very optimistic about their time and their expectations and everything. So I think that's just something to bear in mind.
It's fascinating to me because you're saying, on one hand, ask your customers what they want.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, but sometimes don't believe them. But it's true, right? And you just have to test and then be willing to let go of that idea and go, okay, you know, things are changing now. Yeah.
I think ultimately with entrepreneurship, you just have to keep trying different tactics, different strategies. And it's just a question of seeing what works and then flowing in that direction, essentially.
Finally, what advice would you have for, and I'm sure actually because of this space, you're constantly meeting women who are launching businesses here. What advice would you have for them in terms of setting up their business in Dubai specifically? What are some of the things that you wish you were told when you started the bureau?
There's a whole list, honestly.
Where do we start?
Yeah.
So honestly, I would say I learned this concept in a Michelle Obama podcast, and it's the kitchen, it's the kitchen table concept. So you should always have either like a board of advisors or those people that you can sit around your kitchen table with that just give you that dose of reality. And also you can always go back to re-energize you about your idea, because everyone will have different opinions and everyone will have different expectations, but having those people that you trust and you can always go back to is really, really important. So I would say setting up that community and network, which is what we're trying to provide to women at the Bureau, is super, super important.
I think also just keep talking about the business, like to anyone, whoever will listen, just keep talking about it. You can even be before, we started talking to people about the Bureau before the Bureau even existed, you know, because you get feedback, you get people's opinions, people that want to collaborate will give you good ideas of who to connect with in the space. And if you don't talk about your business, like no one will, you know? So essentially, like, I feel like we had to be our biggest cheerleaders in the business. And I think that now with social media and the way like marketing is changing, I think that consumers connect with the story and want to connect with the founders who are behind the business, because it humanizes a space, or it humanizes like the concept, you know? And so I think like the advice I would give is just literally keep talking about the business to anyone that will listen.
You're like talking it into existence.
Literally
almost.
talking it into existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when you when you are your biggest cheerleader, like people will follow, you know?
Yeah. And something I'd just add to that in terms of Dubai, I think Dubai has such amazing talent across industries. And I think building a strong team is super important. And surrounding yourself with people that believe in your vision, you're all working towards the same thing. I think that is super, super important. So just take advantage of the talent that exists in Dubai and in the region is something I'd say.
I love that. Rhea, Nikita, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
This was so fun.
If you enjoyed this content, continue listening or watching to future episodes where we speak to many of Dubai's startup founders, investors, and digital economy and startup ecosystem enablers. Also, the Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy has published an annual startup guide to help answer any questions you may have on how to register and start a company in Dubai. Download the guide now at the Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy website.